what is required as part of a concept brief is, the amount of customer requests around the feature or the true analysis that they've done.
So a system that is like really easy to use is most of the time not very secure. But when a system is very secure, it's like less usable by noob users, let's just call it that.
If there's not an engineer involved early enough, we're going to make assumptions that technically things are possible and that we can be achieved, and those things won't be achieved anymore or technically possible, and then we end up having to do that huge rewrite and pivot. We need to highlight risks, we need to highlight pivots, we need to highlight the information we've received from users and why we made the decisions. There's going to be guardrails around certain things, and there's got to be a Q&A checkpoint, and there's got to be a senior engineer in the loop at some point. And so we'll continue to work through those processes and figure out the right approach, but it really is the future of shipping and building at this point.
Hello world, this is Edly Spotlight. You know what that means. Glass of wine, your favorite easy chair, and of course, this amazing podcast playing on your home stereo. So go on and indulge yourself. That's right, kick off your shoes, put your feet up, lean back, and just enjoy the conversation. Today's show is a bit of a novelty because there's going to be 3 of us in this episode. Straight from sunny Karachi, Pakistan, is my good colleague, Manor Sarwat. Manor, you are a product manager. So how's it going today?
Thanks, Regis. It's actually started to get chilly in Karachi. We're almost at the end of November here, so we are getting our winter wardrobes ready.
I wanted you to help me out for this episode because this is going to be all about product design. And well, I expect we'll also be talking about Pokemon at some point, but we'll see where that goes. But anyway, I'm not a product person. I'm just a nerdy software engineer. So I need you to bring the expert product perspective that we need here. Our guest today is Jake Taylor. Jake, you are a senior director of product design at JumpCloud. JumpCloud is a B2B scale-up launched in 2013 that is providing a directory platform as a service. And the way I see it, a directory platform is really identity and device management. So I kind of like to think of it as SSO, so single sign-on steroids, or Microsoft Active Directory, but better. Mm-hmm. That works?
I like the but better part for sure. We are actively trying to take some of Active Directory's lunch, if you put it that way. So yeah, I am Senior Director of Product Design here at JumpCloud. You nailed it. We are a directory, but we're a lot more. So we do, as you mentioned, we do device management through MDM. We do SSO. We do a bunch of things really well, including software management, things of that nature. But the core of the directory, as you stated, is a lot of identity management. It's a lot of access management. It's a lot of making sure that people have access to the right things at the right times. And it's also a lot about making sure that they don't, right? You don't want people to be overprivileged or overpermissioned and getting into spaces or sites or information that they shouldn't be visiting or viewing. We also offer a number of other services around SaaS management, around PAM, privilege access management, and other things. But we're a very broad platform. As you said, around since 2013. We've raised over 400 million at this point, and we are actively growing, building, evolving the platform every day, every week, every month.
So it's still very much a growing environment. If I understand correctly, your main audience is composed of system administrators and InfoSec teams. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. So we service or provide features and abilities for everyone from a small business owner. So we target everything from small, medium business sizes, so 10 to 200, 250 end users. That usually has, anywhere from 1 to 2 admins that control those environments. So when you think of a small business of 200 people, even a startup, for example, they might have one admin, right? And that admin is responsible for all the device connectivity, all the identities associated with your organization, giving them access and SSOs, different things, and all of those. As you continue to go up market, we supply in the next segment, we consider commercial, anywhere from 200 to 2,000 users, and then we're also supporting enterprise at 2,500 and above, and finding success in those areas as well.
So, like I mentioned, I frequently work with my colleague here, Manor, and I'm really curious to compare your workflows. Do you have a boilerplate approach to product design? Do you have a standard course of action, or is every product and feature different?
We do. We have a very, I'd say, robust and consistent PDLC. So product development lifecycle that we follow.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So it can be, it can be SDLC, it can be PDLC. So software development lifecycle, product development lifecycle. We are very consistent in our approach. We're looking for those consistent milestones that we have established, and we're looking for the consistent process. So not only the business, but the surrounding people involved in the business know about the outcomes and know about the work that's happening. And so with us, what that looks like is we start at the far left of the process. We start with a concept brief or a concept review. That can come from anybody within the product or PEX team. So we consider our product engineering and user experience team PEX. So it's a 3-in-a-box model. Anybody can submit a concept brief. That concept brief is reviewed by senior leadership. And it's essentially outlining, we have this need, we're hearing this from the customers, we have this gap we're trying to fill, things of that nature. Here's where we're trying to go, here's what we want to build.
So senior leadership has veto power, or but very early in the product design.
Very early. So essentially, what we're trying to make sure happens at that point is not only visibility of the work before the work truly starts and starts occurring across, but also just general agreements that, like, yes, we agree that this is something that we also, we understand that we need. And it's a small group of senior leaders that are tagged with this, and the concept briefs, because the teams, the way that they work, they're not getting over bombarded with concept briefs. It's 2 or 3 a week type of thing, and they're really one-pagers, and so they're easy to review. Does that make sense?
But at this point, you don't have a timeline yet, right? So when you share your brief,
correct? Yeah, we don't have. There might be some scope of work associated to it, but generally there isn't, because there hasn't been a ton of investigation either on the UX side or the engineering side. So we don't have a true estimate of what the work will take to accomplish, but we do have what is required as part of a concept brief is, the amount of customer requests around the feature, or the true analysis that they've done of if there's a gap, but there happens to be nobody truly asking for it. Like, what does that gap analysis look like? So what we're trying to do is give them enough juice to make a decision. And, if it ends up being larger, of course, just standard practice, you start chopping it up into phases. If it ends up, being a quick win, we also have an alternate path for that if it ends up being truly not a full-blown initiative. But that's the approach early on in the process.
So if I understand correctly, you work with product managers who raise requests that you're calling concept notes. And it could be like a feature request or a request coming in directly from a customer, and then a concept note is presented to senior leadership for kind of sort of like an approval, right?
Yeah.
And if I understand correctly, a lot of your work also involves around like access management, device management. So ID heads are using the product, right? And there's this rule that I heard a few years back at my university in a conference that there's like a major trade-off between usability and security. So a system that is like really easy to use is most of the time not very secure. But when a system is very secure, it's like less usable by noob users, let's just call it that. Do you often have to make that trade-off considering the type of software that you're working on currently?
I mean that's a great question. I don't run us into I don't run into that as much, and I don't think the teams do. I think what we run into a lot more is how do we make something that is inherently complex easier to use. What ends up, we have two sets of users that we that we focus on. We have the admins that are within the admin portal that are setting up policies and that are setting up the rules and they're setting up the environment for their then end users to either get abilities or not get abilities and to have access and not have access to different things. So from the end user's perspective, it is consumer facing. And so we do provide a easy button consumer facing product with that approach and that perspective in mind. For the admin specifically, they are generally more technical. And so we don't run into the usability issue of like, oh, you can't do this. We more run into the usability issue of, well, this can get really complex, or this is a very long stepped out, you have to set something here, go to the next thing, you have to set something here. So how do we make those experiences easier and more streamlined for the admins that are having to do a lot of the harder work of setting up the environments the correct way?
Got it. Interesting. And any like product psychology tactics that you very commonly use to solve this problem of converting complex workflows into an easy to use system?
I wish we had an established, more consistent practice there, to be honest. I think it varies so much within the platform of where they start and then their end goal that it is one of those harder things to wrap a one size fits all process around. One of those sort of harder processes could be buried in a certain piece of the product that should have a different approach than something that is being surfaced somewhere else. So yeah, it's a great question. It's a great thought that I'll probably need to think more about now that you've asked it, and my brain's churning a little bit, but no process now.
So I think we skipped a beat here. We cut you off at the point where you were explaining that you were sharing concept notes to senior leadership, and then we jump straight to users.
Yeah.
What's in the middle?
Yeah, there's a lot in the middle. It is a big process. So from a high level, once a concept brief is approved, we start concepting on that immediately. And so we have a 3-in-a-box approach. So there's a lead PM, there's a lead designer associated, and then there's generally a lead engineer. From there, if we have the time and if people had been asking for it, then we'll reach back out to those customers that were originally posted, and we'll start to connect with them to learn more. We can learn more just through sort of those moderated customer interviews, or a lot of times we might bring interactive prototype or early screens to those conversations to help guide those and get even better feedback that way. That's one of the spots where we're starting to dig into AI more, is being able to do that early prototyping through one of the IDEs of kind of the designer's choosing, whether it's Replit or V0 or Bolt or something of that nature. If they're satisfied, or Figma Make, if they're satisfied with kind of that early prototype, even though it might not look and feel exactly like the product, it might not exactly behave how we want it to, but if there's enough there to get valid feedback, then we'll take those into those conversations as well. We generally have around 10 conversations based on that concept brief. We then take all of that information and then go really deep into the design and the experience. From there, we have a series of, and I know Regis, one of your questions was potentially around like consistency and how we drive consistency in the product. That's a lot of that's driven through PDLC and the different milestones and checkpoints we have established. And so the designer and the three in the box will start the project, will start the concept, they'll talk to customers, they'll get into it. And when they're far enough along, they'll start having design reviews. We have a dedicated design review in smaller groups, and then we have a larger sort of cross-functional design review where others can weigh in. Those range anywhere from 10 to probably 30 people, depending. But the real goal there is not only to drive consistency in what others are doing and other pieces of the product, help our design system lead also review the work, but it's also just a real cross-functional, like, hey, this is what we're building, this is the awareness that we're trying to drive. And if others have opinions, a lot of folks have worked in other places, they're deep in the industry, they've seen features, they've seen competitors, right? And so we're trying to get as much of that feedback early as we can to continue to iterate on and move forward in the process. So that's only sort of still front, we're still like left middle of the process. Going into it, we have a what we call an initiative and design review. This is a true business milestone again. This is an opportunity to show that like what we presented in the concept brief early on in the process, that we're still on track and we're still fulfilling the same goals in the same direction that we wanted to go.
Or maybe if you had to adjust course and change something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we need to highlight risks. We need to highlight pivots. We need to highlight, the information we've received from users and why we made the decisions. What we found before, a lot of times, and when we were very kind of busy and maybe I was going to say a little chaotic, is a concept would start with one thing. And then by the time it got into the middle or past the middle, it turned into something else. And so this is our checkpoint to be able to be like, well, we're still on track. This is still the thing. Here's now the scope, because we should have a scope associated to it. And then here's the estimate of, how long it's going to take to implement.
So you mentioned that we're in middle left. So in terms of timeline, how many hours, days, weeks are we at?
It generally depends on, again, sort of the size of it when they get into the work. But if you think of a concept brief and then that next week they're scheduling interviews with customers, the next week they'll have more fidelity on the designs. Somewhere around the 2.5, 3 week mark would be a design review. And then after a week after that is the I&D, the larger business checkpoint. So we're looking at, a regular medium-sized project is around 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the middle of the process. And then from there, getting all that feedback from not only design review, but also the I&D review. Then they start finalizing screens. They start doing sort of the traditional handoff to Eng and prepping. And by that time, the larger Eng team is usually off or coming off the project that they were working on. They're starting to shift focus to the new work. And so then that's where the scope and the estimates start to get refined as well.
Yeah, so this is a pet peeve of mine. So this is the point where you start talking with engineering, but you mentioned that you had a lead engineer on the project before, right? To give the engineering perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. So I keep thinking about this because in so many projects, I feel like engineers are not onboarded early enough. But, I understand the point that the people who do the implementation are not involved right away, but then there's an engineering perspective. And this must be especially important because your product is very much engineer focused.
Well, not only that, but design is usually the one less involved. To your point, we have the same battle, right? We're not being brought in early enough in a lot of organizations and a lot of different processes. With the 3-in-a-box approach, we are aware of the work. We can plan for the work. We can start thinking about the work as early as possible. And so that's the goal with engineering too. What can happen, as you know, if there's not an engineer involved early enough, we're going to make assumptions that technically things are possible and that we can be achieved. And those things won't be achieved anymore, or technically possible, and then we end up having to do that huge rewrite and pivot, either in design or engineering or tech writing as well, to adapt to what we can truly build and what we can truly provide.
I'm curious about this 3-in-a-box structure. Is it always the same 3 people, or do you have a rotation of these 3 people? Because it seems to me that you would need to build expertise on how to contribute to this process.
We try to keep, on the design side, we try to keep them as focused within their product area as we can. It doesn't always work out that way, but it does, to your point, it benefits everyone the deeper they are within that specific space, because it can be so technical. It's not always the case. Sometimes people will shift around based on workloads and everything else. People get busy and can't take on that next project. And in that case, we do a partnership kind of buddy handoff system. So the designer that is dedicated or deeper in that area will then facilitate or do a knowledge share with the new designer to help them onboard and then gut check designs and things of that nature.
I keep jumping in and interrupting you, but
No.
Manor, feel free to jump in at any point and interrupt even more.
Please.
No, you were asking interesting questions. So you mentioned onboarding new people into this 3-in-a-box process that you have, and you have your teams spread across the entire globe. What's the most challenging and most rewarding part of this entire process?
Yeah, I mean, we are a globally distributed company now. My team specifically is, somewhere around half based in India, half in the States, and then we have a designer in Mexico and then a designer in Turkey as well. And so the joy of that is the different cultural perspectives, learning about other people's culture. I had the opportunity to visit Bangalore early this year, which was awesome, and see the team in person. And all of those are very rewarding, and it's great to continue to learn about different cultures, different people, the things they celebrate, the things that they enjoy, things of that nature. I'd say, as it's always been anything global, the largest challenge continues to be time. I'm based in Denver, India. My folks in Bangalore are somewhere around 12 and a half hours ahead of me. And so, we have some early morning overlap, and then we have, depending on how late they want to schedule me, we have some nighttime overlap. So my evenings, their mornings, my mornings, their evenings. But those challenges aren't going to go away, and they don't disappear regardless of where you're at, right? So continues to be a challenge, but as long as we stay flexible and understanding, I think a lot of it works out.
Yeah, so I wanted to understand what process or tools you have implemented to onboard or train those people on the dynamics or the culture of your particular team.
Sure. Yeah, we have a pretty thorough onboarding process. A lot of it includes specific hour plus dedicated sessions for just the PDLC that we just discussed. There's onboarding around the design system and Figma usage, of course, and things of that nature. There's also very deep onboarding about the product. So we offer multiple different certifications that are both inward-facing and outward-facing for our customers. And so one of the requirements is to go in the first 3 months is to pass a series of those courses and then get their official certification. I forget the name of it right now, but it's essentially, it takes you through the product, it educates you about the product along the way, and then it tests your knowledge at different points, just as any sort of L&D sort of structure would. But we found it to be very useful because it's not only something that, our admins take if we're taking it as well, that helps us get better ramped up to the product, and we found good success with that.
Is that a platform that you've built internally or that you picked off the shelf?
The L&D platform is, I assume it's off the shelf.
Got it.
I don't know 100%.
Got it. Yeah, same as Manor. I would be very curious on how you manage to how you handle the time differences, because this means that many conversations are held asynchronously. Do you enforce a policy of documenting knowledge, of tracking all decisions in a written manner? How do you enforce this?
Yeah, so we're fully invested in async work. We record any important meetings get recorded. And so those are stored, in the meeting invite and can be easily shared. All the notes are usually captured by Gemini. And so we have Gemini taking notes generally. We also lean in heavily to presentations and design, sort of async design feedback within Slack. I think Slack expanded their video recording beyond 5 minutes, I think. So using native Slack recording is great. We also, of course, like any other, we have designed Figma. Within Figma, we have comments, FigJam comments, things of that nature. Any big changes will get surfaced in Slack channels and things of that nature. And then we are documenting decisions at an initiative level within Confluence. And so now that I say that out loud, it sounds like that's a lot of different places and stuff, and it is.
It always is.
It's sprawl, right? But it works well for us. I think the best thing that I've found the most success in is those async recordings when you're by yourself. I think it benefits design. It benefits everybody. But what I see in design is the more you can get used to talking to that empty room and explaining your thoughts and having good structured thoughts and being able to relay that to the next viewer is a huge skill. It gets you more comfortable in front of the camera. It gets you more comfortable in structuring your thoughts and how you really want to project it. And what I tell my team is I do weekly end of week on Friday. I record a Friday summary and I throw it into the Slack channel. It's a good practice for me because just like I said, it keeps me in front of the camera and keeps me talking to the void. But it also, it used to take me 2 or 3 tries to, get my tabs in order, get my talking points in order. I didn't like that one, cancel that one. So, a 5-minute recording turns into 30 minutes. Now I can generally do it in one take, and I'm generally happy with it, and it's good enough to go to the team, and I think that it's well received. And so it's those repetitions and those times at bat that really help get you more comfortable and better at those types of things.
So wait, does this replace your stand-up meeting? Like, does every person in the team share updates?
No, we have our steady, consistent, larger team just meeting during the week. This is for me, like if there's any pass downs that have changed or any key initiatives or anything like that, that's my opportunity at the end of the week to give a quick talking point to the team. I also like to include just fun stuff that I've gathered throughout the week. And so I'll try and end it with, here's 2 or 3 fun things that I found. And then also here's the movies and TV shows that came out this week that I might be tackling if I have a chance on the weekend. So
what are you going to watch this weekend?
Well, we're going to be locked into football and family here in the States with Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Right.
So my list keeps getting longer and bumped down even farther at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what are the Thanksgiving movies this week. So.
All right. So you've already talked about AI-generated prototyping and how it has helped you guys in like getting early feedback or validation from your customer to understand whether the design or concept that you have in your mind is really fulfilling customers' request. Are you also willing to embed AI into the actual workflow of the final designs? Like, do you see AI generating full-fledged design at any point, or are you currently doing that as well?
Just so I understand, are you asking like generative AI for the actual UI?
Yeah.
So we're not that far yet. So, I mean, Figma Make obviously allows you to use your own components from your design system to create, pretty decent interactive prototypes.
Sorry, I need to cut you off. What do you call a component in this context?
Components within the design system when
So-
you're
so-
thinking about a
Like a
button
button?
design.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, a button or a card design, things of that nature. So Figma Make will allow some of that, not to the fidelity that we would probably like in the behaviors and the perfect interactions, or the padding and the pixels and the things of that nature. It also makes it super hard to export that code because they add so much sort of redundancy or cruft around a lot of the components in the creation there. So what we've found now is Figma MCP using Cursor. And what that allows us to do is during that handoff where we just got to in the PDLC, that allows us to then pretty much create the front end of the design within around 60 to 80% of what we provided in the Figma. That the process is still being refined. We're still getting better on our side. What we've learned and what others are learning in the industry is what you put into it is generally what you get out. And so the better our Figma layouts are, the better the structure of the page is. Everything has to be auto layout. Everything has to have local components associated within the Figma page. And then they have to map directly to those components that we have in our design, in our library on the Eng side. And so what we'll see it get about 80% of the way there in just a few minutes, which is great because then, in another world, that was a day and a half, 2 days or longer for a front end dev to spend on just getting it to that same state. And so that's where we're seeing a lot of the savings. We're still seeing that we have to get in and provide sort of extra, we have to do that 20% of cleanup essentially and refinement still. But since we saved so much on that initial creation, on that first pass, that 20% gets easier and easier.
So the Figma designs are created by designers themselves, and then Cursor is used to convert those designs into a front-end code.
Correct. Yeah. You stated it very much more succinct than I did. There is a world, and I see that world, and I'm not new in this opinion, that we will be able to ask once. I think once our maturity gets stronger on both the eng and the design side, and referencing components using IDEs and giving more system prompts and more structure and more guardrails and more context, we will be able to ask at some point, hey, I need a new page in software management that does this. It displays the table has these actions, those types of things. We're not there yet, but it's also not far off, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine a world where engineers have built tools that integrate your the constraints about your product, code practices, and after you create the designs, then the MCP tools. Well, the Gen AI can use the MCP tools from Figma, but also the MCP tools that you've created for your own company to generate a consistent output. Without the craft.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think, where we're at right now is you see folks like Intercom and, Shopify. Designers have access to the repos. Designers are able to, either create small features or tweak existing features and things of that nature. And I would love to see our group get there. that also, again, it goes back to kind of the maturity, and there's going to be guardrails around certain things, and there's got to be a Q&A checkpoint, and there's got to be a senior engineer in the loop at some point. And so we'll continue to work through those processes and figure out the right approach. But it really is the future of shipping and building at this point.
I need to ask you a personal question. Do you enjoy working in this new way? Do you enjoy our new overlords?
I love it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm a huge fan. So, it opens back up to when I started. I started my career in 2006, and I got a degree in half graphic design and half web design, and so I was in code for the first 5-6 years of my career, whether it was doing side projects or building websites and breaking WordPress and doing things of that
We've all been
nature.
there.
Yes, updating the tools. But then engineering itself and that landscape got so technical. If you weren't focused on it 100%, which I was mostly design side, that scaled out of your reach pretty quickly, right? And so then that was kind of the middle of my career where you had to be very close to an engineer to make sure that your work got implemented the right way and everything else. I like where we're shifting now to where we're almost in control of our own destiny and being able to, you have an idea, you bring that idea to life. You have a proof of concept, go do the proof of concept. And if it gets us where I see it work-wise impact the most is once we do get the ability, like if we can just go in and fix the things that are just bothering us. So the padding is off somewhere, the button's not the right button, that text needs to be changed, like things like that. If we can on our own solve those 1,000 paper cuts and not bother Regis and his team and just make the product that much better, that's what I'm excited for.
It's funny because when I talk to designers, they can't wait to get rid of those pesky engineers. But then when I speak with engineers, like, oh yes, we can finally generate designs and not have to talk with product designers anymore.
Yep. Yeah, it can go both ways for sure. But that's why I'm excited, is that we can own a little bit more of the experience. We can own a little bit more of the cleanup and make progress that way.
I do want to ask you about Dogfooding, because you're building a B2B product that I'm guessing you must be using internally as well at JumpCloud. So are internal users your first users? Do they come later down the build workflow?
Yeah, so we do dog food everything internally, and then we have a group of SMEs internally that we usually reach out to at different times. Our admin, our senior admin that owns all of the JumpCloud environment will give us direct feedback either early on in the process or as it gets into dog food. The other things that we've established within PDLC is the notion of like private preview and sort of different preview stages within the product. And so being able to expose, once we've dog fooded it, expose it to either those same customers that we talked to early on in the process, or sort of a little bit larger, but somewhere around 10 to 20 early customers until we get the right amount of feedback that that's what they're looking for, and then continue on in the process and go to a GA release.
I feel like one of the challenges of your product is that it's extremely technical. And so I'm guessing when you joined JumpCloud, you didn't know much about directory management. And I feel like this is a shared issue with product managers who work on very technical projects, that they have to get up to speed with what it means in terms of not just implementation engineering, but what kind of actual problems it solves for the audience, which is very technical. So how do you go past this learning curve? Is that also related to your L&D platform that you mentioned?
I think the L&D platform supports it. I think what I see product managers do a lot of times is a lot of customer conversations early to understand more of their product area. There's also, we have a lot of success. There are so many players in the space. We mentioned Active Directory, but there's like a lot of tangential companies that have these different kind of services, either as point solutions or as part of their larger platform offerings. And so we've had a lot of success being able to hire some of that expertise. The design side, it obviously gets a little more difficult, and there is a deeper ramp up there. And a lot of that just comes from getting deeper into the work and those customer conversations and learning about the platform. But we've been fortunate to hire a lot with either previous knowledge, or if they have no previous knowledge, the mix of L&D, customer conversations, and then internal SMEs that we have can generally get folks ramped up fairly quickly.
Both Manor and I were curious about your side projects, your B2B projects. So it seems that you get tired of the B2C. You get tired of the B2B, and you like to work on some B2C projects. Is that the case, or do you just like to build stuff all the time?
No, I think, it's funny. I started building, early last year, I guess, when we started getting some usabilities. I started in Replit as an IDE and V0. For your listeners out there, and for our group here, I started shortly after I started Lenny's product management podcast.
A competitor of ours.
Okay, right. He's a competitor of everybody's, I think. He has a really great sort of AI-driven bundle that you get as a premium subscriber. And so that came with like a year of Replit and a year of all these different tools. And so that allowed me to quickly jump in and start using these things. I've since pivoted to mostly using Claude Code within Cursor, and so that's my daily driver now. But yeah, I'm happy to show what I've been working on, or what that looks like.
You need to show that Pokemon thing.
Oh, okay.
You need to tell us about the background for this app.
Okay. Well, so maybe let's start a little different.
Sure.
We'll show here, and then I think we can get to the Pokemon app. So where my head goes with a lot of things is there's so much data out there. And there's a lot of unused data, and there's a lot of potentially data that we could be surfacing differently. And with AI and with sort of the design and experience perspective that I have, what can we do differently that you don't like about a certain product, or fill a gap that you have personally, right? So with BuildFeed, BuildFeed is live. It's buildfeed.tech. My goal here was, I am a huge listener to Spotify podcasts. Spotify, as part of their podcast display or UI, is kind of terrible. All it does is signal that you have you have your kind of like 6 new podcasts, and then it just signals with a dot that like there's a new one here.
It's all mixed in with the music content.
And it's mixed in with the music content, and it's not a great way to discover, learn more, see relevant things. So I started digging into the YouTube API and the YouTube RSS feed. RSS feed is 100% free. There might be a small limit on there at some point. And then YouTube API is 100% free with a limit API quota of like 10,000 hits a day in a 24-hour period. So what I wanted to do was create a YouTube aggregator, but not only an aggregator, also sort of a quality check, and only surfacing the most impactful relative videos. And so here you'll see I have about 81 channels that we're reviewing daily, and reviewing daily is driven by a GitHub action that then runs the sequence and refreshes the cache that then surfaces the videos. And so we have 82 channels here. From that 81, from that is today's cut, and we only surfaced 21 of the channels within the 42 videos it says were curated. And so again, here I'm trying to just achieve, like, that data's there. Is this a better way to present it? And is this a more impactful way? And is this something that someone would come back to find other channels or other things?
Wait, are you going to watch those 42 videos?
No. No, but I mean, if they wanted to, they could. I mean, I did include a next there. I also figured out that I can get the transcripts as well. And so I'm going to start doing summary and transcript insertion here using OpenAI API. But I don't know if you all saw all the cool stuff you can do with the new Gemini release.
No,
but
I haven't.
I essentially fed my markdown file of my process, the screening process for the videos and the input, into Gemini, and it gave me this whiteboard drawing of the process itself.
And is that accurate?
And it's super accurate.
That's honestly, I would not have guessed this is AI generated.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty wild. So I mean, it's accurate except for I think I had 72 channels in the documentation. But yeah, essentially it's going through, it's reviewing metadata, likes, tags, thumbnails. It's going through the first gate of eligibility, and then it's going through the second gate, and then it's feeding the different sections, and then it's also feeding the featured section. So yeah, pretty wild. You know, it's great to be able to have this automated. This was a weekend project, so started on a Friday night, was able to launch on a Sunday. And you know, it's fun to, I think for me personally, it's fun to just have something that I can continue to chip away at and, you know, improve and grow. And then similarly, I've had this denverux.org domain registered for probably 5 or 6 years. Just been sitting there. I was like, well, you know, I could probably do something with it. And so what I did was went and got a bunch of meetups for local Denver meetups and Boulder meetups, and then just added them, you know, to a site, sort of another aggregator site. And then, you know, they have the option to view in thumbnail or list. And I was going to add a third option. There's like a 3D spinning view that I can probably add here.
So cool.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's like, well, I was just sitting on this domain. Let's go ahead and make it live. And you know, you launch through Vercel, you build in Cloud Code, and again, I did this over the last few days. And then the larger sort of beast of a platform project that I'm starting to chip away at, and this will get us into the Pokemon app, is I started collecting football cards, and I hadn't collected football cards since I was 12 or 13. The card industry is huge.
Wait, I need to pause you right there. You're talking about football, but we're not talking about the same thing, right?
No, yeah, American football.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think there's good clarity there.
So note for our viewers. So this is the fake football. Yes, please continue.
Yeah, the non-international football, I think, is the other way to put it. We know what the international football is. But so I had the idea. There's tons of these products out there where you can scan your cards, organize your cards, see the values grow or do whatever. I wanted to build my own. All of those cost money. I wanted a chance to do it better. And so I started chipping away at this site, and a lot of this is using ESPN API. So there's kind of there's an ESPN API. You can bring in the events that are upcoming. You can do collector events. And so again, just getting into the data, finding the different data sources, being able to surface them. I got a little stalled out on this one, and I was like, well, let's just pivot and let's build a mobile app, because I want to have that experience as well. And I think the other piece of this is generally just me wanting to have the experience of doing these things, whether it's a mobile app or a desktop or whatever makes sense. So let me get set up here, my dirty desktop.
And that's really what I find so cool about this, is that you're building this for fun. It seems like you're not expecting to turn this into a big startup. It's really just for the enjoyment, for the pure enjoyment of it.
For me, and I think you're spot on, Regis. For me, it is enjoyment. It's education, and then if I can find a path to monetization at some point, then that's kind of just an added bonus.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these you can set out to make money with these, and you might be pushing too hard, or you might be sort of going about it the wrong way. But I think for me, it's something fun to spend my time on. It's something good to learn about. And then if there is a path, if people enjoy it and there's some money to be made down the road, then that's what'll happen. So this one is, go ahead.
Yeah, so for the we can see that you're doing some image recognition there, and I'm assuming once the image is recognized and you are fetching some information from some pricing database, can you tell us what you use for image recognition? Is that YOLO?
The image recognition is just using OpenAI's
Okay.
OCR, or vision is what it is. So I think
Oh,
it's OpenAI's
so wait.
vision.
So this is just OCR. It's not image recognition.
No.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's yeah. After all, you don't need image recognition for a Pokemon card recognition, right? Got it.
Yeah, and then this is using a mix of Perplexity API and eBay price results. And so when it can find it on eBay, that's what it'll serve up. And if it can't, then Perplexity, I found, is actually pretty reasonable with the pricing and the estimates.
Okay. Are you a player of Pokemon or just a collector?
I am not. I did this for my sons. Are both big into Pokemon, and so I wanted to again give them an easy button to be able to collect and scan the cards.
That's another case of dogfooding, where you have internal users right in your family.
Yes, yeah, and they're going to give you straight feedback in that instance as well.
It sucks. It's terrible. Change it.
Why is it stalling? Help me! Help me!
Yeah, cool. So I must say I also enjoy this part of generative AI that can really assist building stuff. And it's, I mean, when I come back from work, I'm usually tired. I'm not ready anymore to get back into coding. And I mean, there are people in the house, and to be able to pick up a project and just ask the AI assistant, hey, pick up where we started, move on to the next task. It is really relaxing and rewarding.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that's where I'm getting a lot of my energy as well. So, we spent 8, 9, 10 hours of the day sort of doing what we had to do, and then having the opportunity to build what you want to build is where it's giving me energy in the evenings. And like you said, I can do it while watching TV. I can do it while, a movie's on and make progress, and it feels good. It's like, oh, got this done. Push this, update the documentation. Yeah. I do have one other interesting thing if you all are game
Please.
for it. I think this has helped me a lot in my workflow, and especially using Claude Code or Cursor. And if folks are just starting out, I think this might help. So um, I am a huge Claude fan. I use that's all I use. I think I might have started in OpenAI, but only Claude since then. So I use Claude Desktop to plan all of the work. And so going deep into Claude Desktop and asking questions, refining the approach, having it create markdown files, and then taking those markdown files and putting them into the project folder seems to work the best. Like instead of starting from scratch, like start from a markdown, give it the context, give it the instructions, and then it seems to work really well. It also works back the other way. So what I have it do is anytime I make updates to the project, I have it, so I pretty much, I'll be working all day, I'll work in the afternoon. I'll say, hey, update relevant documentation, like don't miss the primary, like high level update. And so what I'll do then is take that markdown and add it as an artifact within the project. And then the project now has all of the latest and greatest context from all of your recent updates. And so what's cool about it, right, and people may or may not know this, and that's why I'm hoping it clicks for some folks, is like you're driving context from Claude Code into desktop, and you're driving context from desktop into Claude Code. There is an automated way to do this. I just found it. I'm going to try it here probably in the next couple of days. But this is 100% like I think the thing that's helped me the most is just understanding how to use these tools together, what makes one click, what makes the other work the best. And so now, with the latest update, like what's the latest site capabilities? And it'll give me a high level overview of the project now and it's as current as, the most recent file. It helps you plan the next features. It helps you sort of structure. It helps you ask questions, all of those things. And so, yeah, I just wanted to surface that. That's been an aha moment for me the last couple of weeks, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I think I've had the same discovery kind of thing, where I only realized recently that using a generative AI for a long project building, it's all about context management and making sure that we don't overflow the agent with too much useless context. And generating these MD files really helps keep the context under control, because once you generate those files, you can just clear the history of the agent and then feed it back these summaries, which is great to help like build a project incrementally.
Yeah.
It's like if you were to bring in new new engineers to your project, and you had an up-to-date documentation. So even though those people are completely new to the project, they don't have the context, then you can bring this context in a cheap way by feeding them this comprehensive documentation.
Well, there's I 100%, and there's also if you're concerned about token usage or anything of that nature, I think that this is a lot more efficient rather than if you were just to be prompting Cursor the whole time of well, now do this, now do that, and no, I didn't want that. It's like, well, if you just spend all your time in Claude Desktop or OpenAI and ChatGPT, whatever you want to do. Get those markdowns. They'll know exactly how to approach it, and you'll spend a lot less time of that back and forth motion as well.
Yeah, and I really expect that this is going to be the next milestone in agentic software engineering, that there is an agent which is specialized in coordinating those other agents, and which will then generate this context and feed back there. So we're doing this manually right now, and there are some projects that make this more systematic, but we're not quite there yet. I mean, I'm not. Maybe some people are.
Yeah, and I'm not there either, but I am excited for it. I think that's what we have to look forward to here soon.
Okay, I need to ask you the magic wand question to close this to close this conversation. So the biggest problem that you face, so either at work or in your side projects, if you had so what is it? And if you had a magic wand to remove it, so what would you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, can someone pay all of my API bills? Is that
oh, cheaper API bill? How much are your API bills? Share those.
No,
share this with us.
Yeah, I think I think the what I run into is you want the data. I don't want to have to pay for the data, and so that's where my head went. But truly, for the question, my head goes back to where we're starting to make the most progress, and that is designers being enabled and empowered to work on platform engineering initiatives in different capacities. And I think that benefits us in a business and in an professional environment. That then benefits us also in our personal side projects and building on our own. And I think we're not far off, as we discussed. It's just a matter of timing and maturity, whether it's within your company or within the industry as a whole. I think if you're a designer, I guess my thoughts, if you're a designer, don't be scared. You need to start somewhere. You need to be hungry, and you need to keep up with these technologies, because the industry hasn't stopped moving, and it does favor the early adopters. And so if you are looking for growth in your current role, your next role, things of that nature, these expectations, unfortunately, keep getting higher and higher. And so now is a great time to jump in. And that's my goal, and that's where I want to stay, is, at the top of the curve or ahead of it. So.
Thank you so much for this, Jake. I really enjoyed it. That was Edly Spotlight. You were with Manor Sarvat, Jake Taylor, and myself. See you next time.
Thanks all.
Thank